Light swallowed Jenny whole, a whiteout vortex engulfing everything around her. Weightless, falling, floating, the air twisted like a whirlpool around her. Then abruptly, thump! A jolt of pain shot through her body as Jenny slammed into a hard surface. She gasped, her hands trembling as she pushed against the ice-cold floor. Opening her eyes, she saw a long, endless corridor stretching before her, metallic walls emitting a soft, blue glow. The silence was thick, so heavy she could hear the frantic pounding of her own heart. Everything was too perfect, too sterile, and chillingly cold.
John,
She whispered, fear tightening its grip on her chest. She didn't have time to wonder how she'd gotten here. All that mattered was John was in danger, and she had to find him. Elsewhere on the planet Leora, Jack stood motionless before a monitor. His eyes were sharp as razors, but deep inside, a storm was raging. He'd been secretly monitoring John's data for a long time. He'd seen what John saw, he'd heard what John heard, and now he saw her, Jenny, who had actually made it to their world. Impossible. Jack took a deep breath, trying to steady himself, but his mind was a tightrope stretched to its breaking point. Since childhood, Jack, John, and Brian had been a research team. They'd studied together, grown together. But when John and Brian stumbled upon Earth and those strange things called emotions, they'd veered off course. Jack, on the other hand, remained loyal to the ancient Leoran civilization. And so they'd gone their separate ways, Jack cutting off all contact. Brian was discovered first. The Overseer Council showed no mercy. Brian vanished, without a trace, without a word. Jack felt nothing when it happened. It was only natural. Rule breakers had to be eliminated. But then John was captured, and Jack found his secret research. He should have turned it over to the Council, but something held him back. He studied it, and then he found something incredible. The magnetic fields of Earth and Leora had some similarities. When Jenny arrived on Leora, Jack felt something shift inside him. Were the things Leorans had always pursued really true? Logic told him to report Jenny immediately. But something else, a completely foreign feeling, was holding him back. He had two choices. Follow his duty, report Jenny, end it all. Betray his civilization to help John and Jenny. Jack closed his eyes. He took a deep breath, his fingers hovering over the control panel. And then he made his decision. Jenny jumped at the sound of footsteps echoing down the corridor. She spun around. A man stood before her, bearing a resemblance to the John she'd seen in her dreams, but his eyes were colder, much colder. Those icy eyes were fixed on her. He wasn't John, but something in his gaze sparked a strange connection.
Jenny.
Jack's voice was deep and emotionless. Jenny clenched her fists, her heart pounding with fear. What's he going to do? What can I even do? She realized she was completely helpless. Jack stepped forward, placing a metal box on the floor. The cold clang echoed in the empty space.
Put this on. What you're wearing is too conspicuous.
Jenny stared at him, unmoving.
you think I'll trust you?
Her voice trembled, laced with desperation. She'd come this far, pushed herself beyond her limits, but she had no strength left to resist. Jack didn't answer. He just stood there, his gray-blue eyes piercing through her, devoid of patience or urgency. Jenny looked down at her tattered dress. It was torn and dirty from her journey. She was freezing. She was exhausted. And despite herself, she knew she had no choice. She bit her lip and picked up the box.
Turn around,
Jenny said. Jack, without understanding or caring, turned his back. Inside the box was a suit made of a peculiar fabric, light yet sturdy, its size automatically adjusting to her body. It not only allowed her to move freely, but also incorporated a high-tech layer of protection. She could feel the fabric vibrate slightly as she zipped it up. When she was dressed, Jack turned back, handing her a small device.
This is a map to John.
He said, then placed two more devices in her hand. Two small, slender devices like black metal rods.
what are these?
Jack stared at her.
Weapons.
Jenny's breath caught in her throat.
How do I know you're not leading me into a trap?
Jack paused, then spoke in a lower voice.
Face it, You don't have a choice.
A chill ran down Jenny's spine. She had no reason to trust Jack, but he was right. She had no other option. She gripped the devices, trying to quell the tremor in her heart. She would trust him, just this once. Before Jenny left, she turned back to Jack.
Why are you helping me?
Jack looked at her for a long moment. Then he said slowly,
Because I'm the one who opened the gate for you.
Jenny's eyes widened.
What?
He turned to Jenny, a flicker of emotion in his eyes for the first time.
That space gate, I created it based on John's research.
Jenny's heart pounded.
Will you come with me to rescue John?
No, you must go alone.
Why?
Jack paused, then said,
Because I can't betray my kind, and because I need to find answers for myself.
Jack answered, then disappeared into the shadows. Jenny raced down the corridor, her breath ragged. The map on her wrist glowed, leading her to John's cell. Fortunately, she encountered no one along the way, probably thanks to Jack. The heavy metal door slid open, and her heart stopped. John lay motionless on a large table, wires and complex devices snaking around his body. His eyes were closed, his face pale. Though she'd only seen John in her dreams, she recognized him instantly.
John.
She whispered, rushing to his side. Jenny's hands trembled as she tried to detach the wires and tubes from John's body. But they were too tight. She tugged with all her might, but the cold wires wouldn't budge.
No way.
Jenny murmured, her breath coming in gasps. Tears welled up. She bit her lip, a wave of helplessness crushing her heart. She'd come this far, but if she couldn't free him, if it all ended here, then everything was for nothing.
No, it can't be like this.
She whispered through her sobs. A cold, weak hand touched her cheek.
Jenny?
The voice shattered her heart. She looked up. John had opened his eyes, but his gaze was blurred, utterly confused. She was here? Impossible. This had to be an illusion created by his failing mind, right? But why did the illusion feel so warm? Jenny looked at him through her tears.
John, you have to get out of here. Please, tell me what to do.
John stared at her, still in disbelief. But then, he saw her tears falling onto his hand. A strange pain pierced his heart. Not the pain of torture, not the pain of wounds, but another pain. An unnamed emotion, something he had never known. He had never seen anyone cry for him. He had never known that pain could come from another, from seeing someone hurt for him. The pain made him realize this was no illusion. Somehow Jenny had truly made it here. His voice was hoarse, but firm.
The control panel, on the left.
Jenny nodded, rushing to the panel. She ran her hand over the smooth surface, searching for any mechanism that could disable the wires.
Press and hold the circle icon. Enter 0412.
John instructed. Jenny followed his instructions. A click sounded. The wires began to loosen. Jenny lunged forward, pulling them off John's body. She wrapped her arms around him, trying to help him stand. But just then, a deafening alarm blared. The lights turned a glaring red. They had been discovered. They had to leave immediately, but John needed time to recover his strength, and leaving right away was impossible. While John tried to recover as quickly as possible, the cell door burst open. Leoran warriors stormed in, their eyes glowing with a cold silver light. John wasn't at full strength, but he was strong enough. He immediately pushed Jenny behind him, his eyes darkening. His people stood before him, but in their eyes, he was nothing more than a traitor.
John.
One of them spoke, his voice rigid.
Step aside. Don't force our hand.
John's eyes narrowed.
Force your hand? You didn't force your hand when Brian was punished. You didn't force your hand when I was locked in this cell. But now, when I want to leave, you want to stop me?
Silence descended, heavy and charged. A Leoran warrior tightened his grip on his weapon.
You know our rules. Emotions are dangerous.
Jenny stealthily slid the weapon into John's hand. John touched it, a flicker of surprise in his eyes, but this was no time for questions. He gripped the weapon tightly. John gave a cold smile.
Then I guess that makes me the most dangerous one here.
And he lunged forward. The clash of weapons echoed through the chamber, a relentless symphony of steel and energy. Jenny watched in awe as he fought. He was fighting, not to protect himself, but to protect her. But the enemy was overwhelming. A powerful blow struck John's shoulder, sending him staggering back. Another Leoran warrior lunged, his weapon aimed at Jenny. Jenny tightened her grip on her own weapon, her heart pounding. John roared, throwing himself forward, using all his strength to hurl the attacker away. But he knew they couldn't hold out for long. He raced to a console on the wall, ripping out a vital component and hurling it against the room's structural support. The wall fractured, revealing the vast expanse of space beyond. His eyes flashed. It was time to leave. John reached behind his ear, quickly removing a small chip hidden behind his oracle. He pressed it. This chip was the key to controlling the ship he secretly built, a state-of-the-art vessel that embodied his curiosity about Earth. Instantly, a sleek, advanced spacecraft materialized just outside the breached wall. John whirled around, grabbing Jenny's hand.
Run!
They sprinted toward the spacecraft just as laser fire ripped through the air. John pulled Jenny into the ship's hold, the door slamming shut as they tumbled inside.
Hold on!
John shouted, frantically powering up the ship. Jenny gripped the handrails as the ship shuddered, its engines roaring to life. Outside, the Leoran warriors had gathered, their weapons glowing, aimed directly at the ship. A beam of blue light shot forward, but John yanked the controls, the ship veering sharply, narrowly avoiding the blast. And then, the spacecraft shot into the void, leaving everything behind. The Leoran warriors stood watching, their eyes cold. They didn't pursue. They were scholars, people who had never left their planet. Leora had never been attacked. Because they knew, once someone decided to leave Leora, they were no longer one of them and could never return. As the ship hurtled into space, John glanced out the window, watching Leora shrink behind them, its soft blue glow fading into the endless darkness. A part of him felt relieved, but another part felt unbearably heavy. Jenny gently touched his hand.
John, where should we go?
He didn't answer right away. His eyes were fixed ahead, lost in the vast, infinite void. They were free. But what did freedom mean if they had no place to belong?
To wherever we're meant to be.
He said, his voice steady with determination. Where should John and Jenny go? Should they try to find their way to Earth? Would Earth accept John? Or after overcoming countless hardships, would John eventually return to Leora? Any of these possibilities could unfold. Now it's up to you to decide their future.